Bottom line reality for me in this case is that large number of undergraduate students, regardless of the campus, consume large amounts of alcohol. And when they consume large amounts of alcohol, they do very stupid things. Put that on the table. The other reality is that, Duke is not unusual in terms of large numbers of female undergraduate students having unwanted sex at some point during their 4-year career. The fact that we describe it as unwanted sex as opposed to sexual assault or rape really speaks to the language of the academy in these institutions in terms of how they deal with the sexual violence that takes place, right? And the sexual violence almost always takes place within the context of alcohol consumption. So on the one hand, if any of these institutions are not going to get serious about addressing the issue of alcohol consumption, right, then this is going to be an issue that's going to go on for years. The other thing that we're finding out now, and some of you can think about this at the moment, some of us can process this as we were undergraduates and think about what we do. Undergraduate culture has changed. Large numbers of fraternities and sororities, for instance, hire strippers on a regular basis, right, along with the keg and the alcohol consumption of all of these things. And if there's something to be said about how the lacrosse players themselves have been depicted, I think they've only been unfairly depicted in the sense that their behavior is being depicted as unusual as opposed to normative behavior on college campuses. Right? And that's all I'm going to grant them. Okay. But for me, my bottom line with this case was always, how are we going to talk about this issue about sexual violence and rape and sexual abuse against black women? And there was literally no language, very little language in the popular media that could address that. Because, black women are unreachable, right, as history tells us, right? Their sexuality doesn't matter. They have no control over their bodies, right? If anything, there's a debate between black men and white men over who controls black women's bodies. So in the same context of talking about the specific specificities of this case, how do we also talk very openly about the fact that had this been 3 Duke black male football players who attacked this woman, it would not have been a case. Right? And also deal with the difficulty that if it was these same 3 black male football players and a white woman, they'll be in jail. Right? And how do we just talk openly about all of this? I mean, this case allows us an opportunity to have a very honest and open discussion about race and gender and sexuality in this society. Right? Being someplace like North Carolina, which I'll call the Bible Belt, and a lot of folks have gotten on me, why are you calling us a Bible Belt? That's as anti-Christian as if somehow I'm not a Christian when I'm saying that. That's but I'm a New Yorker, right? So this whole idea of the Bible Belt is palpable, right, in the South. And dealing with the kind of respectability politics that we saw amongst some in the black community in Durham, where they really did not want to come out one way or the other because they thought this young woman was in the wrong. Right, why is she stripping? If she hadn't been stripping, this wouldn't have happened to her, as if, women in general don't get raped just for walking down the block, right, in any kind of context. So for me, the whole case has really been a learning lab, right? How do I equip my students, right, and in times that I've written public about this, how do I equip readers, and some other folks like Juanita Lubiano and Carla Holloway and some other folks have been on the front line of this stuff. How do we equip folks with the tools to deal with what this is in reality? And the sad part, at least in terms of the mainstream media, it's allowed for moments for us to actually have a discussion. Aaron Tashira's piece for AP about black women's bodies and rap music that ran in April. Both Joan and I were quoted in. There have been a few other pieces. And that's allowed for certain narratives to go around, right, to be translated into the world. But the reality is that, the spectacle of this is going to shut down very shortly. Okay. And we won't be able to have those discussions, seriously in the mainstream.